Prince Harry thought the Australia embarrassment was already painful, but now Meghan's so-called Plan B has allegedly turned the entire mess into something even louder, riskier, and far more humiliating. Because when a comeback tour collapses in public, most people step back, breathe, rethink the strategy, and quietly repair the damage. But not this time. Not in the Sussex world, where silence never stays silent for long, and every rejection somehow becomes the opening act for an even bigger gamble. After the Australia reaction left Harry looking exposed, uncomfortable, and once again trapped inside Meghan's grand reinvention machine, whispers are now circling that Meghan is not backing away from the global stage at all. In fact, she is allegedly pushing a brand new tour idea, a Plan B so bold, so risky, and so obviously designed to erase the Australia disaster that even people close to the couple are said to be asking one brutal question: has Meghan learned nothing? The original Australia backlash was already bad enough, with claims of weaker crowds, awkward public energy, and people questioning whether the Sussex name still carries the same magic it had back in 2018. The uploaded transcript itself frames the earlier visit as a sharp contrast between their once rock star reception and the colder, more skeptical reaction surrounding their later private style appearance. But now, instead of letting the dust settle, Meghan's alleged new move is being described as a second attempt to prove she can still command a room, still sell the dream, still walk into a country and make people care. And this is where Harry becomes the most uncomfortable figure in the entire story. Because no matter how polished the press photos look, no matter how carefully the smiles are placed, Harry is the one who looks like he keeps paying the emotional price when these big public experiments go wrong. Once upon a time, Australia adored him. They cheered for him. They treated him like the fun, rebellious prince who could do no wrong. But now every new comeback seems to drag him further away from that old image and deeper into a celebrity-style brand battle he never fully looks comfortable fighting. And sources whisper that this Plan B idea is not just another speaking event or another soft-focused charity visit. No, the rumor is that Meghan wants a tighter, glossier, more controlled international tour built around empowerment, wellness, business, and personal healing. The kind of tour that sounds noble on paper but looks dangerously close to image repair when the public is already suspicious. That is the dangerous part, because after Australia, people were not just criticizing the crowds, they were questioning the intention. Was it charity? Was it branding? Was it business? Was it royal cosplay without the crown? And once that doubt enters the public mind, every handshake becomes a strategy. Every hospital visit becomes a photo opportunity. Every speech becomes a sales pitch, and every warm smile starts looking like part of a campaign. Meghan may believe Plan B is the answer, but to critics, it allegedly looks like the exact same mistake wrapped in prettier packaging. And Harry, standing beside her, is once again left looking like the man who must defend a plan he did not fully control. The most explosive whisper? Meghan's team allegedly wants to avoid places where the rejection was too visible and instead target smaller, carefully selected events where attendance can be controlled, optics can be protected, and the cameras can capture only the flattering angles. But that creates another problem, because the more controlled the tour becomes, the more people ask what they are hiding. If the Sussex brand is still powerful, why not face open crowds? If Meghan is still beloved, why depend on private rooms and curated audiences? If Harry is still the draw, why does every appearance feel like it needs a backup plan, a media shield, and a perfect exit route? And that is why this new development feels like a Plan B disaster before it even begins. Meghan may be trying to turn the Australia backlash into a comeback storyline, but the risk is enormous, because if the new tour succeeds, she can claim the critics were wrong. But if it flops, Harry will not just be embarrassed once. He will be humiliated again, this time because everyone already saw the warning signs. The first rejection could be called bad timing. The second would look like denial. And the public, especially online, is not forgiving when celebrities keep trying to manufacture momentum that no longer feels natural. Now the question becomes painfully simple. Is this really a comeback plan, or is it another trap waiting to close around Harry? And this is where everything starts to feel heavier, sharper, almost uncomfortable to watch. Because the deeper you look into this so-called Plan B, the more it begins to resemble not a comeback but a pressure cooker situation where expectations are rising faster than reality can keep up. And insiders are quietly hinting that the cracks are no longer just public perception, they are starting to show behind closed doors as well. Because when a strategy fails once, you can blame timing, you can blame media narratives, you can even blame public mood shifts. But when the same energy, the same structure, the same style of tour is repackaged and pushed again, people begin to notice the pattern. And patterns are dangerous in the world of public image, because they turn isolated moments into reputations. The whispers now suggest that Meghan is determined to prove that the Australia situation was just a temporary dip, not a reflection of declining influence, and that this new tour idea is being positioned internally as the moment where everything flips back in their favor, the moment where the narrative changes, the moment where critics are forced to admit they were wrong. But the problem is that confidence like that only works when the audience is already on your side, and right now the audience is watching far more carefully than before, questioning far more deeply than before, and reacting far less emotionally than they once did. And in the middle of all this stands Prince Harry, a figure who once moved through crowds with ease, who once connected with people without effort, who once didn't need strategy or positioning or calculated messaging to be liked, and now suddenly he looks like someone navigating a stage that no longer feels natural, almost like he is trying to balance two identities that refuse to merge, the royal he used to be and the global personality he is expected to become. And every time a new plan like this surfaces, that tension becomes more visible, more awkward, more impossible to ignore. Because the truth is, whether anyone says it out loud or not, every success of this new plan would belong to Meghan Markle, and every failure would quietly land on Harry's shoulders. And that imbalance is exactly what makes this situation feel so volatile, so fragile, so close to tipping into something bigger than just a failed tour. There are even murmurs that some advisors have warned that pushing forward too aggressively could backfire in ways that cannot be easily repaired, because the public is no longer reacting with excitement or anger, they are reacting with indifference. And indifference is far more dangerous than criticism, because it cannot be argued with, it cannot be spun, it cannot be turned into headlines that drive engagement. It simply exists as silence. And silence is exactly what turned parts of the Australia visit into such a talking point. Not boos, not protests, just a noticeable absence of energy, a lack of urgency, a feeling that the moment had passed without anyone fully realizing it. And if this new tour walks into the same atmosphere, if the rooms feel half full again, if the reactions feel muted again, if the buzz never quite ignites, then the story will not just repeat, it will escalate, because people will no longer see it as a one-off situation, they will see it as confirmation. What makes this even more intense is the rumored structure of the new plan itself, because it is said to involve a blend of speaking events, curated appearances, and carefully selected impact moments that are designed to generate viral attention. But viral attention is unpredictable. It cannot be controlled, it cannot be guaranteed, and when you try too hard to manufacture it, the result often feels forced, almost artificial. And that is when the internet turns, quickly and without mercy. A single awkward clip, a single empty section of seats, a single moment where the energy feels off, and suddenly the narrative shifts from comeback to collapse in real time, amplified across platforms that thrive on exactly that kind of contrast. And this is why some observers are already calling it risky, not because the idea itself is impossible, but because the timing feels misaligned, the momentum feels weak, and the stakes feel unnecessarily high. And yet, despite all of this, the push continues, because stepping back now would mean acknowledging that the Australia reaction meant something deeper, something more permanent, something harder to fix. And that is a reality that this Plan B seems designed to avoid at all costs. But avoidance has a price, and in this case, that price could be another very public moment where expectation crashes into reality and leaves behind something that cannot be easily reshaped or rebranded. Because once the audience decides that the magic is gone, it does not return just because a new tour is announced. It requires something genuine, something unexpected, something that breaks the pattern instead of repeating it. And right now, this plan, at least from the outside, looks dangerously close to repeating the very pattern that caused the problem in the first place. So the question that now hangs over everything is not whether this new tour will happen, but what will happen when it does. Because if it succeeds, it rewrites the story completely, it turns criticism into fuel, it reestablishes presence, it reminds people why they cared in the first place. But if it fails, if the reaction mirrors Australia or worse, then the word humiliated will not just be a headline anymore, it will become part of a larger narrative that follows every future move, every future appearance, every future attempt to step back into the spotlight. And for Harry, that is the real risk. Not just one more uncomfortable moment, but the possibility that these moments start stacking, one after another, until they form a version of him that the public no longer recognizes, no longer connects with, no longer feels invested in. Because in the end, this is not just about a tour, not just about crowds or tickets or headlines. It is about identity, about relevance, about whether the story they are trying to tell still still matches the story people are willing to believe, and right now those two stories feel like they are. Drifting further apart with every new move, every new plan, every new attempt to prove something that may no longer need proving, or worse, may no longer be provable at all.